It's the 15th of January, or more importantly in Newcastle United and football terms, it's day 15 of the January transfer window for Newcastle United. Now, I think it's fair to say there's been no movement from Newcastle, no activeness, and can you really blame? We're so restricted by financial fair play, and we've not got freedom to speak to any player. Although in the midst of that, there's one player who's always been linked with Newcastle, and that's Calvin Phillips. It looked like it was pretty much a done deal, and that he was always going to end up on Tyneside. Well, now that's not the case. It looks like Newcastle have walked away from this deal because we want to pursue a higher calibre of a player. Now, that is a pretty good sort of movement from Newcastle. We do want to get higher calibre of players than Calvin Phillips, but pretty much it looked like it was the only sort of player that we could go for. Now, it's also a financial move from Newcastle. Man City arguing that they want £7 million for half a season. Absolutely substantial. Now, we've got more news on Saudi Pro loan deals, and of course, Bruno Guimaraes. Apparently, Liverpool are going to pay 3 instalments of £30 million. And I dread to bring you this, but we've got some really, really bad news. That Joelinton maybe could be out for the season, as well as some injury news for Bruno Guimaraes. Without further ado, enough waffling, let's get into the video and the news. Right then, lads and lasses, how we're doing, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all okay and having a fantastic day. Yes, pretty good news for Newcastle. Not pretty good news, but pretty big news for Newcastle. There's been a lot of news today on a lot of sort of things. Of course, we'll get into every single one. Without further ado, if you do appreciate the news that I bring in, you do like the videos, you enjoy them, like and subscribe if you haven't already. Smash that like button, preferably, because I really do appreciate it. It sends it out to more people so that you can get the news as well. If you could do that, take 2 seconds, I really would appreciate it. Now, yet again, enough waffling. Without further ado, let's take a look into the Saudi Pro loan deals, which we are going to go on about. Is 2 strikers, which is a sort of position that Newcastle do need to bolster up in. Do we need an out-and-out striker? Do we need a striker who's going to play week in, week out? Preferably not, because Alexander Isak is arguably the best player on our team. His coolness in front of goal, his technical ability to go out on the wing, he just doesn't look like an out-and-out striker. He's just perfect on the wing. He's perfect as a striker. He's such a fantastic footballer. So we don't need a complete striker right now, a sort of striker who's going to change the team drastically. We just need to cover one. Alexander Isak not being the most un-injury ridden, if you know what I mean. Callum Wilson being the compound opposite of un-injury ridden. And there's 2 players here who Newcastle fans have said, well, let's look at Firmino, let's look at Alexander Mitrovic, who could have a return on Tyneside. We've got news on them suggesting them maybe leaving their Saudi teams now. Bobby Firmino, who plays for Al Ahly. Al Ahly have said that they can give him the freedom of preferably going out on loan with the sort of move that would be good for Al Ahly, a financial move, of course, to an English club. And of course, for him, that would be Liverpool. Liverpool have actually had sort of news that he could go there. But for Newcastle, Bobby Firmino, would you take him here? He knows the league very well. Of course, he wouldn't be playing ahead of Isak. Undoubtedly, he wouldn't be playing ahead of Isak. Isak is 10 times the player that he is. But he's very experienced in the league. He knows that if he comes here, he'll be a cover striker. I'm not saying no to that. Is it a little bit unrealistic? Absolutely not. I mean, of course, we are under the same sort of ownership, Saudi PIF, the Saudi Public Investment Fund, so it could be done very, very easily. Although Newcastle, Darren Eales has said that Newcastle aren't actually having any intention to do Saudi loan deals, which for me personally, it's a bit mind-boggling. Why would you want to start all this drama about voting for doing Saudi Pro loan deals, having this big exploitation in the market which could benefit us so heavily, and not actually exploiting it? It doesn't matter what other clubs sort of think about. We'll just benefit us the most you can, lads. We'll be happy. Now on to the big one, Alexander Mitrovic, who many fans have been saying, look, he's a very good striker. I think it's 25 goals in 26 games for Al Hilal, but it doesn't look like he's going to come here. Now, Al Hilal, of course, won't want to lose him. They're top of the league, even though we are owned by the same owners. They may not want him to lose them midway through a season in January, where many clubs don't want to do business. Now, they are top of the Saudi league. Of course, they are going to want to win that, and they are in the Asian Champions League, which, yet again, with such a crucial player like Alexander Mitrovic, are they going to want to let him go? Absolutely not. He's crucial there. We do have the same owners, though. Is it something that can sort of slyly conjure up? Maybe, but it looks like them 2 deals are off the sort of counter for Newcastle. Now, something which is a little bit worrying, but I wouldn't take into context too much. Liverpool are eyeing up Bruno Guimaraes. Now, this is given to us by the Mirror Football, and what they are saying is that Bruno agreed to a £98 million release clause. People did think it was £100 million, but it's nevertheless £100 million, isn't it? And they can pay in 3 instalments, which of course comes around to 32.6 recurring. I did put that on my calculator. I'm not working it out in my head. £32.6 million recurring in 3 sort of years, or however many instalments that they are doing. Now, that is very cheap for Bruno. He is the last player on the team I'd want to see leave. The passion for the club he has, the impact on the club he has. He's been here, he survived relegation with her, he's got Champions League with her. I would say he's been through the highs of the lows. He hasn't been through the highs of the lows of the club completely, but relegation and Champions League, it's pretty passionate for a player to do that, and he's so crucial in Newcastle. We wouldn't ever want to lose him. But yes, Liverpool are eyeing him up, and they could be doing a 3 instalment of £32 million, each of course weighing up to £98 million for Bruno Guimaraes. Now, I don't think that'll happen whatsoever. Of course, the release clause can't actually be activated motivated. Well, it can be, but it's up to Bruno if he wants to go there. Out of respect, even though all the money in the world, even if he was offered 500 grand a week, of course he wouldn't get that at Liverpool. They've got very tight pockets for such a high sort of standard club that they are. But would Bruno actually, even out of respect, go to another Premier League club? And even if it wouldn't be Man City, it would be Liverpool. Would he do that when, let's be real, this season they may be, but Liverpool in general, even last season, aren't absolutely light years ahead of us, are they? They're very much ahead of us right now, of course, with the players that they've got, the financial fair play freedom, the manager, all their sort of revenue is much better than ours at the minute. But in a couple of years, in 5 years' time, I like to be thinking we would extremely take the game to Liverpool. Now, we'll quickly move on from that because it's not something we should top up on more, but one thing which it is pretty worrying for Newcastle. Who are we going to get? This is reported by the Telegraph Football. The Newcastle hierarchy, of course, meaning our owners, do not think signing Calvin Phillips makes financial sense. Now, personally, I can back this 100%. We will get on more news with Calvin Phillips as well, because we have got more news on Calvin Phillips and different news to that. I do actually agree with this. What on earth is the point of signing a player for Man City? Was Man City asking for £7 million for half a season for Calvin Phillips' services? Now, that from Manchester City is complete arrogant, but they know they can sort of take our situation for a weakness. They know we've got all the money in the world, but we can't really spend it. They know we are in very big need of getting a centre defensive midfielder. They know that we really need him. So they are taking our situation and exploiting it. You can't really blame them, but it is very sly from Manchester City. You think would sort of be working alongside each other like brothers. But no, it looks like Newcastle are moving away from that deal because they're just asking too much. You would think since we're sort of moving away from this, they might sort of burden down. Well, you can have him for 6 months for a £1 million loan fee. Because let's be real, Man City, you've got so many good players in cover for that sort of area anyways. They've got Rodri, Kevin De Bruyne, who doesn't play as a 6, but of course he can play there as well. They've got Bernardo Silva in midfield, yet again doesn't play as a 6 though. But they've got the likes of Mateus Nunes, Kovacic, and the list goes on that are actually ahead of Calvin Phillips. He's not a main player there. So Man City, just do a favour and give him for very, very cheap, shall you? Now, something which I didn't want to bring whatsoever, and of course we've still got to get onto the Calvin Phillips news. But Joelinton may be out for the season. I'm not even smiling. Joelinton may be out for the season for Newcastle. This is given to us by João Cancelo Branco. He's a Brazilian journalist, I believe he is, but he's also given the news from ESPN, the sort of news outlet which did give us this, and he's given us in English as well. Now, I don't want to get into the whole sort of news of it, but it does say Joelinton has suffered an injury, which we do know. Eddie Howe said that at least he'll be out for 6 weeks, which it's not great whatsoever, isn't it? I mean, for me personally, the midfield presence that he brings in the team, the physicality, the sort of bully aura around him. Players are actually, it sounds funny to say this, but players are genuinely scared of tackling the ball when he's there. It's funny, but it's a very good trait to have. Now, we thought he was going to be out for a minimum of 6 weeks. That doesn't look the case for this. We've got news that he may be out for the whole season. It goes along with Pope, who's nearly out for the whole season. Sandro Tonali. It's really, really bad news. I mean, where on earth is the season going to go now? And apparently Bruno's got a tiny little bit of an injury. He was signalled off by Newcastle physios to come off against the Manchester City game. Now, I do also know that he's in Paris today, so he can't be that injured, can he? He's not in hospital or anything like that. But it's not good news whatsoever. With all the players that we've had missing, Joelinton is arguably, if not the most important player in the team. He dictates that midfield tempo like it's nothing. Honestly, it really is probably going to sort of show us where our season's going to go, and I don't want to look forward to it whatsoever. Right now, I'll take Europa Conference League in a heartbeat. It's a competition to play in. It's arguably a trophy that, when we've got all of our players back, Sandro Tonali, Champions League quality, Bruno Guimaraes, Champions League quality, Alexander Isak, Joelinton, Nick Pope, Kieran Trippier, Sven Botman, all Champions League quality. We should be going in the Conference League and winning that if we do, fingers crossed, get into that competition. Now, moving away from that and fastly as well, we really don't want to be dreading that. Like I said, Joelinton may be out for the season. We've got news on Calvin Phillips, and this is given to us by Joel Bland. He says Newcastle have seemingly pulled away from the Calvin Phillips deal as Crystal Palace and Spurs have now got growing interest in the midfielder. This is first called by Luke Edwards-Telly, and it also believes that Newcastle can get a better sort of valued player elsewhere. Now, undoubtedly, that is the sort of case with Newcastle, but what we were thinking is, yes, we want to get a higher caliber player elsewhere. We obviously want to get a better player than Calvin Phillips, but we were settling for Calvin Phillips right now because maybe with the sort of financial fair play that we've been restricted with, maybe with the sort of attractiveness that we've got right now, slumping down the league, we've got many injuries, that we could only get Calvin Phillips. Of course, we do want a higher caliber of a player, but who's it going to be? Where else can we actually look with being so restricted heavily? Do they want to come here? Do teams actually want to do business midway through January? It's going to be a very, very sticky one for Newcastle. If you have any CDMs which Newcastle should turn to, leave me down the sort of suggestion in the comments below, and we'll take a look at them as well. We'll maybe actually sort of mention them in a video later on, because Newcastle really do need to look for a 6. It's undoubtedly one of the biggest positions what we need right now, especially with Joelinton being out. That is actually such a big blow for Newcastle's season. But yes, without further ado, we're going to wrap up the video there. We've got big news in Calvin Phillips, Joelinton, Bruno Guimaraes, Alexander Mitrovic, and Bobby Firmino. Let me know if you take them too at Newcastle, although maybe not actually coming. Bobby Firmino does look likely to go on loan to an English Premier League team, which Al Ahly have said. You let me know down below your thoughts on every single bit of news today. I've been Jody Josh. I hope you've enjoyed the people. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. Go have a good day. I've been Jody Josh. Go enjoy your day.